Good afternoon and welcome to the August 26th, 2024 meeting of the Salina City Commission. I will ask staff if the Kansas Open Meetings Act required notice has been provided.
Yes.
Thank you. May we have a roll call?
Mayor Longbine.
Here.
Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Hoppick.
Here.
Commissioner Ivy.
Here.
Commissioner Linkowitz.
Here. Thank you. All who are willing and able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have no public hearings, so that will bring us to item 4, the consent agenda.
Item 4.1, approve the minutes of the meeting of August 12th, 2024. And item 4.2, approve resolution number 24-8235, appointing members to citizen boards, commissions, and committees.
Thank you. Is there any item a member of the public would like to comment on the consent agenda? I would note that the city clerk did send out a amended version of the minutes from the last meeting. And any commissioner comments? Motion to approve?
Mayor Longbine, I move we approve consent agenda items 4.1 and 4.2.
Second that. Got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Motion carries 5-0. Administration.
Item 5.1, approve ordinance number 24-11216, levying 2025 Business Improvement District Number 1 service fees.
Ms. Pack.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Debbie Pack, Director of Finance and Administration. Statute KSA 12-781 allows cities to set up business improvement districts within their boundaries. In 1983, the City Commission approved the creation of the BID District Number 1, covering certain downtown areas of Salina. Since 1987, Salina Downtown, Inc. has been in charge of managing the BID programs and services. The BID services are supported and financed through a service fee on businesses within the district. Upon an annual recommendation by the BID board, the governing body by state law must pass an ordinance levying the service fees applicable only to the businesses located within the district. For the 2025 budget, the BID board has recommended a 0% increase in the current fees. In addition to BID fees, the SDI is supported by funding from the city for an operational supplement and a facade grant program, as well as a percentage of the community improvement district for downtown. Staff has identified the following options for City Commission consideration. Approve ordinance number 24-11216, levying Salina Business Improvement District Number 1 service fees for 2025. Approve the ordinance with amendments, postpone consideration of the ordinance, or vote to deny the ordinance, resulting in the city not adopting fees for the Business Improvement District for 2025. Staff recommends option number 1, and I would stand for questions.
Questions, Commission? This is pretty straight through and easy one. Is there any public comment? I will entertain a motion for approval.
Mayor, move approval of ordinance number 24-11216, levying Salina Business Improvement District Number 1 service fees for 2025.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve ordinance number 24-11216, levying Salina Business Improvement District Number 1 service fees for 2025. May we have a roll call?
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Hoppick.
Aye.
Commissioner Ivy.
Aye.
Commissioner Linkowitz.
Aye.
Mayor Longbine.
Aye. Ordinance carries 5-0. And that will bring us to item 5.2.
Item 5.2, approve resolution number 24-8210, accepting an updated fee structure for rentals of Dean Evans Stadium, Pestinger Family Stadium, and Bill Burke Memorial Park, effective January 1st, 2025.
Mr. Hammond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jeff Hammond, Director of Parks and Recreation. And good afternoon, Commissioners, as well. If you don't mind, I'm going to sit over here instead of the podium. The Salina Parks and Recreation Department offers extensive array of rentals facilities for our community, including neighborhood centers, shelter houses, athletic facilities, aquatic centers. These spaces are available for reservation through our department. While many of these facilities can be used on a first-come, first-served basis, some do require a reservation with a rental fee. It's important to note that these fees do not cover all the direct or indirect costs of maintaining and operating these facilities. As a result, a significant portion of our budget comes from the City of Salina's general fund. The department rental fees, or the Parks and Rec Department's rental fees, as well as program fees, are outlined in the revenue and fee policy for Parks and Recreation. This policy is often referred to as the cost recovery policy, which categorizes our programs, facilities, and sets financial goals for various programs and to recover a certain percentage of costs through those fees. One key aspect of the policy is the flexibility. The city manager has the authority to adjust user fees and pricing strategies based on staff and advisory board recommendations, with a cap of 10%. If fees exceed that 10% threshold, further authorization is required from the City Commission. On May 13th of this year, we had this item before you, which was postponed, requiring staff to get more information. Today we offer that we have an update to that today. There is an attachment of that May 13th staff report, and just as a reference. Recently, significant improvements have been made to several of our facilities, including synthetic turf enhancements at Bill Burke Memorial Park, Dean Evans Stadium, and an ongoing project at Pestinger Family Stadium. To ensure the long-term sustainability of these upgrades, it's important that we plan for ongoing costs, the cost of maintenance, and the future turf replacement. Industry standards suggest that turf replacement should be budgeted at approximately 55% of the initial installation cost. For our 3 improved facilities, this equates to future expenses totaling approximately $2.3 million for all 3 facilities. I've encapsulated some of the slides, some of the tables that were in that May 13th presentation that I did not include in the staff report, just for some level of brevity to the staff report that you have before you today. So I do have a compilation of tables from that May 13th report, so you don't have to reference them both. Thank you, Jacob. The city established a turf maintenance fund and replacement fund to support these efforts, which was part of the agreement, development agreement with the initial Dean Evans renovation 3 years ago. Current contributions have built a fund balance of $150,000, which is projected to grow to $550,000 by 2031 when we start planning our first turf replacement. Additional funding for the turf replacement fund will be funded from an additional capital improvement from the city and funding from transient guest tax. To address the current and future costs, we propose increasing fees related to the rental use of synthetic turf fields. This adjustment will help cover the anticipated expenses and align the fees charged with comparable facilities in other communities. These comparable facilities have been provided for 2 field types that have synthetic turf, one being premier baseball premier baseball facilities, which would be comparable to Dean Evans and Pestinger Family Stadium, and softball and youth baseball facilities, which will be a comparison for Bill Burke Memorial Park. In the provided development agreements for Dean Evans and Pestinger Field, it outlines to the parties of the agreement the method for developing fees, considerations to review when establishing fees. It outlines the type of fees that will be assessed and the justification as to the importance of fees contributing to the future maintenance of the turf. Some highlights of those agreements for Dean Evans and Pestinger Field. The parties to the agreement acknowledge that funding of future maintenance of facilities will be dependent to the extent feasible upon fees for facility use consistent with those charged by other communities with comparable facilities. The agreement outlines how base rate fees are set, which shall be by the game, for the game, by the hour for practices and for other uses, and then for the additional fees for lights. When establishing fees for the facility, we consider the cost of operation of the facility, the costs of the ongoing facility maintenance and repairs, the capital costs associated with construction, gameplay as compared to practices, age and size of the participants, and the number of innings per game. So some of those are some of the considerations to take when we establish fees, and when we looked at fees for increasing them as well. A graduated fee schedule will be implemented, taking into consideration the respective contributions of each of the parties of the agreement towards the funding of that construction of those fields. In recognition of the contributions by Salina Baseball Enterprises in the most recent agreement relating to Wilbur Field and Matson Field in the creation of Pestinger Family Stadium, Salina Baseball Enterprises shall not be subject to user fees for the use of either of those stadiums for 10 years. The creation of the city of that dedicated turf maintenance fund, which I referenced before, and then the city may allocate to the fund any user fees generated as part of those agreements. And lastly, some of the highlights of the agreement. The parties to the agreement acknowledge that the turf replacement fund is not intended to be the sole source of funding for the replacement of turf and be dependent on other facility user fee increases. And be dependent upon facility user fee increases, additional fundraising efforts, and other sources of funding, which we've already identified as that transient guest tax fund. The presentations are provided in your packet that were provided to the Berkeley Family Recreational Area Advisory Board, which was on August 12th, and the Parks and Rec Advisory Board on August 21st, 2024, related to the review of comparable facility fees. The consideration of the fee increases based on the comparable facilities and the justification of those increases. I'll start with Dean and Pestinger Stadium. The proposed updated fee for Dean Evans, the proposed updated fee for Dean Evans and Pestinger Family Stadiums were based on the review of the comparable facilities for premier baseball facilities and was presented to both boards. I've provided some attachments. I provided some of the slides that I think Jacob will put up related to what was in the packet on May 13th relating to the revenue collected at Dean Evans Stadium and what was the current fee schedule and the graduated fee schedule for the different parties to the agreement. And then the last slide that is a summary of maintenance and repair related to Dean Evans Stadium. Both Berkeley Family Recreational Area Board Advisory Board and the Parks and Rec Advisory Board did make a recommendation to approve the increased fees as presented for the facilities. The proposed rate increases that were recommended by the boards for Dean Evans and Pestinger Family Stadium were so currently the per game, 7 inning per game is a current rate of $150. The proposed rate is $165, which is a 10% increase in per game for 7 inning game. A 9 inning game currently is $200, and the proposed increase is $240, which is a 20% increase. Per hour of practice, which is currently at $50 per hour, would be proposed to be $60 an hour. And then we also propose to add a rate for practice by the hour for oversized teams, which doesn't currently have such a rate, but we propose to add that to the use of Dean Evans and Pestinger Family Stadium. So there's not a percentage increase in that, but it is a $90 per hour rate for teams that have 40 plus, 40 or more participants on the field for that practice by the hour. Also wanted to provide some report to some operational updates for the use of Dean Evans and Pestinger Family Stadium relating to construction as well. Pestinger Family Stadium field has been in use for several weeks. The lights and electric utility work was recently installed, and the scoreboard, hitting cage, and dirt work was being worked on last week and will continue into this week. For Dean Evans Stadium, the light heads were scheduled to be replaced as part of this project, and I believe they completed that last week. They're replacing the light heads with LED fixtures. The utility work, there's some utility work, additional utility work that goes along with that needs to be worked on this week. Since the spring of this year, staff have continued to update reservations on a weekly basis for Dean Evans and Pestinger Family Stadiums, and it's to properly reflect the reservations changes, whether it be from rainouts, heat advisories, or from construction related, which has been somewhat recent. Additionally, the PIN code system for Dean Evans Stadium, it has been active since spring, and that is in an effort to replace keys. So it's a PIN code that's assigned to each user group, and which gets logged, so we know exactly when that PIN code is being used to enter the facility. Moving on to Bill Burke, a very similar method to what we followed for Pestinger Family Stadium and Dean Evans was used by staff to review and consider proposed fee increases for Bill Burke. Bill Burke fees have not been increased for several years. For Bill Burke Memorial Park, the department proposes, well, I'm sorry, let me back up a second. There's a few additional attachments for Bill Burke. Our slides that were provided for Bill Burke in the May 13th packet. Some of the improvements that were part of that packet. Some of the operational expenses relating to Bill Burke, and also the rental revenue by user group from 2023 was provided. And I believe Jacob is providing those as a slide on the screen. Let me start again with Bill Burke. A similar method to what was used for Dean Evans and Pestinger Family Stadium was used by staff to review and consider fees for Bill Burke, or proposed fee increases for Bill Burke. The department proposes an increase in fees based on the review of comparable facilities for softball and youth baseball use. And those were presented to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board also on August 21st of 2024, just last week. The Parks and Rec Advisory Board did make a recommendation to approve the increased fees as presented for Bill Burke. The proposed rates are as follows. We identified the different essentially the different user groups, schools, colleges, and private rentals, which we are calling regular rentals. The school practice rate is $12 per hour per field. The school game rate is $17 per hour per field. The college practice rate is $17 per hour per field. And college game rate, $22 per hour per field. The regular practice rate or the private rate would be $17 per hour per field. And the regular game rate would be $22 an hour per field. And then game rate would be an 8-hour plus day is $125 per day per field. And the facility rate, that's all 8 fields, is $900 per day. And a facility rate for two concurrent days, get a little bit of a discount, be $850 per day. In your packet, I also provided some of the other associated fees with the use of Bill Burke. We did not change these as presented from May 13th, except for one. We did recognize that field supervisor per hour, we bumped that up to reflect the rates of pay that we're paying from the pay plan for temp seasonal staff had increased last year and 2023, and we wanted to bump it up to accommodate that increase in rate of pay and also some of the other things that go along with that, whether it be FICA or Social Security. These proposed changes are essential for maintaining the quality of our facilities and in ensuring these facilities continue to serve the community. We aim to implement these fee adjustments on January 1st of 2025, which would allow time for the different user groups to plan for this and budget for this accordingly. Additionally, staff would intend to review the baseball and softball facilities rental fees using the established process to report fee revenues to the appropriate board and make fee recommendations for the upcoming year. Typically, we do this with the Parks and Rec Advisory Board once a year. We review fees and for the revenue that's collected from those fees for every program we do. We intend on incorporating this Bill Burke and Dean Evans fees into that method. And it would be within that 10% threshold outlined in the cost recovery policy. If it were to be recommended to go above 10%, then it would come back to the City Commission after the board. So in summary, these fee adjustments will ensure the financial sustainability of our facilities by aligning our fees with comparable facilities in Kansas and planning for the future maintenance. We can continue to provide high-quality facilities in Salina and managing our resources responsibly. Have a few options for you to consider. Approving a resolution to accept the updated, so option number one, approve resolution 24-8210 to accept the updated fee structure for rental fees effective January 1st, 2025 for Dean Evans, Pestinger Family Stadium, and Bill Burke Memorial Park as related to synthetic turf fields. Option two would be the same option, except also would any amendments as the City Commission deems appropriate. Option three would be to postpone consideration of the resolution, and option four would be to vote to deny the resolution, staying and for essentially fees staying where they're at now. Staff recommends option number one, and I'll remain available for any questions that you might have.
Questions?
Yeah, just one, just so no misunderstanding of anybody listening. The purpose of these increases are for operational expenses, that not meant at all to be replacing the turf over time.
No, it's for twofold, really, is to contribute to that turf maintenance fund, but also to account for the ongoing maintenance of the facilities as well.
Do you have a percentage of the total operational costs that these fees will,
I do
Cover.
not have that.
or is it way less than half, more than half? If you-
I
have
did the
it, yeah.
analysis for
Okay.
Dean Evans, assuming reservations stay the same, it would be slightly above, but that was based on previous years. That was when Salina Baseball Enterprises contributed to that revenue total. So it would be, compared to the fee increases, it would cover all the field maintenance expenses. That was based on the assumption at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Does the regular practice rate include recreational teams, like City Rec League
City Rec League would not pay,
for practice?
and I'm assuming you're referring to Bill Burke.
Yes.
Our league, Travis's leagues for softball, baseball, youth baseball on Bill Burke would not be charged the fee. They would pay a program fee,
Sure.
which would incorporate our direct costs relating to that program.
Sure. I was hoping that's what it was, but
Yeah.
thank you.
So your non-rec teams would still be subject to these fees?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How do you track this per hour? Is that based on the reservation system?
Yes, that's how we would bill it. That's how we reserve. That's how we would reserve it by the hour. It's and then that's how we would provide an invoice to that user to pay for those fees. It's a very similar method that we put in place for the field house, which is the fees are by the hour, and I would say our reservation system's pretty relatively sophisticated and can break those down well for us and then provide an invoice to those users.
So that all happens pretty seamless.
Yes.
Okay.
Are those locks currently being used and data logged in?
I'm sorry. Can you,
Like at Dean Evans, the locks, are they currently being data logged so we know who's in there and when?
yes, they are logged. The entry is logged. So when they punch in the code is the only time it gets
But
recorded.
there's no exit.
There is not an exit, no.
Is there a way to exit code?
Not for the system we have currently in place.
Okay.
Is there going to be the same kind of entry system at Pestinger?
We've already had some conversations about that. It's quite possible we can do that. There's the 2 dugout gates that we would like to consider putting it on there, but we haven't gone forth with that yet. The project's still ongoing. There's some additional fencing that's going to occur. That's going to be security fencing. I like to see I want to make sure what I can put some eyes on that we're going to get exactly, so we know that I think it might be able to be secured without using a keypad pin system, but I don't know that yet. But we are certainly prepared to do that if necessary.
So does each user have an individual pin, or is it a universal pin?
It's they have individual pins. So Kansas Wesleyan has one, USD 305 has one, Salina Baseball Enterprises has one, city staff has one, and then we have one for tournaments. I think we have more than one for tournaments, so we can assign a code for a tournament and not be the same for the tournament in the following weekend, for example.
Further questions and comments?
I have quite a few, but I don't know if you want to hear from the public first, and then I've got a laundry list of things I got questions about, or I can go ahead. It's up to you.
Well, I guess one item I kind of looked into is the use that Wesleyan puts on the fields. You factored that in here, size and of team and weight. Just a lot of difference between a 12-year-old and a 20-year-old that's in full-time weight training on the wear and tear that they put on the facility. So I don't know if this is sufficient. And another question I had for staff is, does Kansas Wesleyan pay any property taxes at all?
I don't know the nature of all their holdings, so I'm not prepared to say that they don't, but I'm not aware of any.
Yeah, that, as far as contributing to the facilities, your average taxpayer in Salina is contributing on a daily basis. And
Ask a follow-up question. That is there any data that would show that turf fields that colleges and professional teams own outright wear out any faster than those in communities like ours?
I don't have any data like that. I'm sorry, I brought Travis Shaley up, our recreation superintendent, because some of the details he has in his brain, just in case we need to have a question we have trouble answering, or I have trouble answering.
I hadn't thought about it when we discussed it before, but there's probably a model already in existence, which is fields that are regularly used by big, heavy guys.
Commissioner Davis, I don't have any data to support to you at this time.
Okay.
So, Travis, in your conversations with others, did you have conversations with any college facilities or facilities with larger users? Did they have any observations one way or the other?
What I've learned is their setups are different, that's for sure. As far as having some facilities or maintenance staff, are you referring to the wear that's...
Yeah, I didn't know if you'd reached out to Fort Hayes or anyone that just had observations about the useful life of their fields and...
Just keep on ongoing maintenance. Your pitching mounds, your batter's boxes are going to be, the high traffic areas are going to be the areas that are addressed or replaced on a semi-regular basis. Your mound every year. Batter's box we've experienced about every 3 years or so. High traffic areas from home to first and then first to second. And as you go around the merry-go-round, it's going to be a little less and less. But those high traffic areas, very common to replace or at least get your eyes on the maintenance on a constant basis.
Commissioner Hoppick.
Well, could you go to this expenditure spreadsheet you have that I have here?
Are you referring to the pro forma for
Revenues.
turf replacement?
Yeah, revenue sources, and it gets a little confusing because you have Dean Evans in there also with Bill Burke and Pestinger. The maintenance repair you have at $7,500 a year, and then it jumps to 10, then it goes to 30,000, it goes back to 10. What's the reason for that?
I'm going to have to ask Debbie if she has any ability to assist me, because she put together that pro forma for turf
Commissioner
replacement.
And I believe we added in
Which page are you-
replacement of a groomer.
Yeah. I
The
believe that's
groomer
correct.
replacement was the higher dollar amount year was a replacement of a groomer. I'm trying to find it here in the packet so I can throw it up in just a second.
It's the,
This may be something came out of the Parks and Rec Board that probably should have been shared with everybody also.
It's not in our packet for today.
I think it's on the last page.
It's
If
the
I'm
last
looking at
page
your
of the
packet, flip it to the
attachments.
very last page.
Oh, okay.
3
That's
pages.
the back side of it, probably.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
So the 7,500 maintenance and repair, is that just on Dean Evans, or does that include Bill Burke also? It seems a little light when we consider how much maintenance we have at Bill Burke because of the fact that we have grass to mow, yada, yada, yada.
I don't think it included mowing and things like that. It was
See, that's-
more
that's this-
replacement
this-
of the pads and things like that.
Yeah, I think-
As I recall
I
from
think
your.
this is
I think that's
directed
right.
at turf, and the fee structure in the agreement is directed at turf.
Okay, but we're
maintenance
talking,
and
we got
replacement.
Bill Burke in here too is the problem.
It's a
We're
turf field.
convoluting it because we got Bill Burke in here also. So I'm having troubles following the numbers. Question about Dean Evans, turf replacement. I understand you're trying to use 55% of the original. There's no inflationary. There's nothing built in here for inflation. I calculated the first time we'd have to replace turf in 2031, I come up with closer to 900,000 than 600 at a 3% inflation rate.
We did
per
not
year.
include inflation, but we also did not include growth of transient guest tax.
But again, that's going to lead me into another deal. When we passed the transient guest tax use, that was looked at with Bill Burke. When we passed that, we were looking at turfing Bill Burke. Am I not correct? And that was to pay for the turf, the debt service, to replace it, and the maintenance. All of a sudden, the transient guest tax has been thrown into Dean Evans and Pestinger, and we, in my mind, we put the transient guest tax, that 1% increase, that's there to reduce the tax burden on the Salina taxpayer, not to underwrite Kansas Wesleyan's budget. And that's what I feel like's happening here. We're doing everything we can to alleviate Kansas Wesleyan paying their share of the replacement on the turf at Dean Evans. I'm just going to be honest. That's the way it looks. That transient guest tax should be used for Bill Burke, because that's where that money is generated by the teams that come in. Maybe the field house, we're going to have to replace turf there. That's money that should be used for facilities being used by people in the community. On the Pestinger, I don't see where we're setting anything aside on an annual basis on here. All of a sudden, in 35, we start, I guess, debt servicing 95,000.
Yes.
I'm not sure why we're not in this formula. We're not collecting something, so we get there. We have a portion or all of the replacement there.
So part of this assumes rolling over our annual expense to then fund the next round. So we're not necessarily bankrolling the funds. We're trying to identify a cash flow that'll make the current payments and then be available for the next round
But
of
without
financing.
transient guest tax, we're woefully short.
Yeah, this model is dependent on the
we're-
transient guest tax.
Yeah. I personally believe that if you have a business model that's not working, you do one of two things. You either redo your business model or you go bankrupt in the private sector. And that's a little bit of the way I feel here. We're trying to fill in numbers to make them work. I have a real problem that, Kansas Wesleyan put in, and again, I'm sorry I'm picking on Wesleyan, but they're the ones that use the facility probably at least 60% of the time. And in my simple mind, if you use a facility 60% of the time, you ought to be responsible for 60% of the maintenance and probably 60% of the replacement. And that's just my thought process. They put $125,000 into us if you're looking at Dean and Pestinger, they put $125,000 into $6 million worth of facilities, which is about a 2% investment. It's not a very much a big investment. I'm not sure of what other colleges use city facilities quite like Kansas Wesleyan's using ours. I just calculated if Wesleyan just built one facility at $3 million, and that's not even including ground, and they financed half of it, their payment a month would be $14,000. That's what they paid us last year to use Dean Evans for a full year. I really believe that we have to sit down with Kansas Wesleyan and have a serious talk about what these facilities mean to them and how they need to step up and pay their fair share. And I want to be a partner with them, but you've got to be this to me doesn't feel very much like a partnership.
I think it's a compelling argument, and compound that with, and I understand that we don't have quantifiable data to this, but to me it's common sense that if you have adult-sized people on turf versus Little League sized folks, there's going to be more wear and tear. And I'll pick on myself. You throw baseball cleats on me and I go tromping around a field, it's going to have a lot more wear and tear than if I throw a grade schooler out there. And I don't think that's unreasonable to maybe go back to the table and figure something else out.
And I also have a little issue with their scheduling because, you know, there's a schedule out there, and I kind of followed this last year, and they didn't follow their schedule. They were on there at different times, and the fact that they can clock in and don't have to clock out, we have no real ability to clock how many hours they're using the facility. I'm still a firm believer with that many dollars invested out there, we ought to have some type of a camera system out there also. And you can get wireless cameras fairly inexpensive anymore. I think we ought to also have that discussion. Do we have a player limit on the fields? You know, they have 80 on their roster. And being an ex-college baseball player, I don't think half of those people are sitting at home not practicing somewhere. And I think if you put 50, 40 players on a field, you know, NCAA one, I think their limit's 32 on their entire roster. So I think there needs to be some discussion about the number of players allowed on a diamond at one time also to help alleviate wear.
If we're going to make that assumption, we should also find out if indeed those extra bodies do inflict increased wear and tear on the field. And I mean, there are enough colleges in this country that I'm sure somebody would be able to share their data with us to somewhat quantify it. I mean, we're assuming that, and I'm not saying it's incorrect, but we are assuming that a lot of big people tear up the turf sooner and we'll have to replace it sooner or replace pieces of it more often. It'd be nice to see that indeed is quantifiable.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. The other thing is, are we making sure that pitching mats and batting mats are being used during practice? Again, the charges for games doesn't bother me as much as practice. You know, practice is, you know, you get that many people. If I go to a game, I maybe get 3 or 4 at bats and I get how many swings. If I'm out there taking batting practice, I quadruple that. And then you run that through 40 players, you're getting a lot more wear and tear out there. So I just think there's got to be I can tell you right now, I'm not going to vote for this. I think there has to be some serious discussions with Kansas Wesleyan about Dean Evans. Then that comes back to Bill Burke and our fee structure if the women want to use that facility. Because, again, Kansas Wesleyan has zero investment in the Bill Burke facilities. And, again, they had last year, I haven't seen their roster this year, they had 40-some players. Most teams, what do we have, 12, 14 players on a roster, maybe 15? So you're tripling that number of people that are out there practicing on a field at one time.
I think typically I've seen Kansas Wesleyan for Bill Burke, have 2 fields. Is that correct?
Typically, they do spread it out to fields. They'll just say 1 and 3. You know, hey, they're going to do this work on 1 and this work on 3.
Do we have batting mats for them to use? Because I was out there last year and they were not using batting mats.
Yes, we do.
They were using them. And I also saw them doing soft toss, and it wasn't on our facility, it was over south, but there's batting cages there, and they were actually doing soft toss outside of the batting box, which is additional wear. So
Yeah.
there's some, I think some really hard discussions need to be had on the use of the fields.
Follow up, I know we have cameras around Bill Burke. Do we have them up at Dean Evans in the new Pestinger field?
Not currently. We have a wireless network there now. Wi-Fi cameras are considerably, they're a little more reasonably priced per camera, plus you don't have the ongoing cellular data costs. So Staff proposed to purchase 3 wireless cameras for Bill Burke, since we have the wireless capability there now, and to put them in typically for vandalism purposes.
Right, that's a point I was going to make. Just practically speaking, we're using them for a security use. We go back and look at the video if an incident arises. We can get alerts if people are in a facility after hours, but we don't currently deploy them in a way that we're monitoring and actually watching the video,
Right.
not necessarily continuously, but on a ongoing basis.
And the other thing is, I think we got to quit looking at percentages on these proposed changes. I look at the per hour practice, it went from 50 to 60, which is a 20-hour or a 20% increase, which is woefully low to begin with. So, you know, $10 at 100 hours of practice is an extra $1,000. That's really not moving the needle very much. What did Wesleyan pay last year to use it both a fall and a spring? 14,000?
That's correct. It was 14,000 something.
Yeah. Rounded to
combined
15,
combined
so,
for
yeah.
both seasons. Yes.
That's
And if all stayed the same, I think we were in the blue sheet. There was maybe go up 4,800 based on what was proposed. I'm sorry, for Kansas Wesleyan, it'd be approximately $3,000 of an increase for Kansas Wesleyan.
it goes to 17. So that was, yeah. I'd take that every day of the week if you give that to me, to use those type of facilities. I'm not so sure that's not a fee we would charge to use dirt and grass just because of the upkeep and the maintenance on a facility, besides replacing turf.
I think a fair question to pose would be how much Wesleyan spends maintaining and caring for Graves Family Stadium, the football stadium. I would imagine that's a pretty good chunk of their sports budget to take care of that
Yeah,
field.
but I'm not sure what that number would be.
And I think that'd be a valid question to ask them, and to compare what they're spending on baseball facilities. Further discussion? Any public comment?
Hi, John Blanchard. I appreciate that you guys are concerned with costs and how we recoup those costs. One thing I would just ask that you consider is that there has been significant efforts over the years to build a strong town and gown relationship with not only Kansas Wesleyan University, but with K-State Salina and with Salina Area Technical College. All 3 of those institutions of higher learning offer something completely different. Many the same, but some completely different. One of the main things that Kansas Wesleyan brings is that it's a four-year liberal arts college. There are people that a significant portion go to school that live here, but a significant portion move here. We've made a lot of efforts over the years to retain a lot of those students. So I would just proceed in a manner that is consistent with all the efforts that we've made in the past to make sure that we're working constructively with them and letting them know that we do appreciate the partnerships that we have with them. And in that vein, I would just suggest, I know in 2011 or 2012, somewhere around there, when Deion Louthan was here, the city adopted, Parks and Rec adopted a cost recovery model. They look at things, different things that, maybe we give credit to certain things if they bring intangibles to the table that we can't really quantify with a percentage amount of with what their contributions ought to be. So just the two things I would suggest is, because like I said, I certainly appreciate everything that Commissioner Hoppick brought up. I would just make sure that we approach this in a respectful and considerate manner with them. And I would lean a little bit on our cost recovery model, because that is a policy that I'm sure we can maybe apply at least to some of the concerns that you have. Thank you.
Back to the commission.
So if I could ask a question just to clarify, and not to put too fine a point on it, but setting aside the fees applicable to Kansas Wesleyan, are the remainder of the fees acceptable?
One of the things I get frustrated with a little bit, coming from Sacred Heart, is they always kind of get left out on this because they're an other user. They don't get the 50% discount that 305 gets, and the way I look at it, they pay the same taxes as 305 and don't get the benefit from it. But I try to throw that out there most of the time. But when we keep trying to raise these fees to bring it up for everyone, they're the ones at the bottom of the barrel that gets burnt the most on it.
I guess to follow up on that, I would like to see, now that we have two fields, I would like to see Sacred Heart be able to use Dean Evans and Pestinger more. Again, to follow up what you're saying, those are taxpayers in Salina, and I think they should have the ability to use it. I guess as far as the 50% discount, you got to remember USD 305. Again, it's taxpayer dollars, I understand, but they put money up front. So, again, there maybe needs to be some discussion about how to allow Sacred Heart to use those facilities. Because I think right now they have to go to Madsen.
They go to Madsen for probably over 90% of their games. I think they played 2 games at Evans last year.
That's correct.
Are we going to make upgrades to Madsen?
It is our intention to make upgrades to Madsen, especially with the field regrade and dugouts for starters.
I believe they played most of their baseball games at the former Wilbur Field, which is now Pestinger. So I guess that does bring up a valid question. Where does that put Sacred Heart? My neighbor's son plays for him, so.
I know who that is, too. I know who you're talking
Yeah, and
And I know as far as softball goes at Bill Burke, Kansas Wesleyan will, need to use Bill Burke at some point in the spring, in the fall. They shouldn't have to use it at all because they have, they paid to be a partner in the South High facility, and that facility is not used by either South or Central in the fall. It's only, they only use it in the spring. So as far as what I see is that they should be using South High, and we'll need to get this all figured out at Bill Burke by the spring for Kansas Wesleyan. But I know Mr. Blanchard mentioned the cost recovery. Well, if you look at the cost recovery on this, on what we're using here, we're not even coming close, so.
But if our intentions are to truly cover our costs, the fees are going to be much higher, and you have to figure out which costs. If we're not trying to really recover the cost of turf replacement, much like the golf course, we expect that making budget for them as operational expenses. It's not covering the cost of the irrigation system. So we have to define, to what extent we want these fees, what costs we want them to cover.
And I agree. We may not get there 100%, but we ought to be a lot closer than we are now, that when it comes time, that there's a lot less pressure, on transient guest tax and on the taxpayer to replace that turf.
Yeah, and I think we got to give credit to the staff and this commission to be looking ahead 5-6 years down the road and not being faced with this big, all the turfs wore out.
And I think we need to go back in there and add, some type of inflationary cost to these, because looking at, at the cost of the turf remaining the same through 2051 is probably not just optimistic, it's probably unrealistic that that's going to happen.
Is there any desire for the other edge of the table that raised valid concerns to suggest option number 3 and give some detailed suggestions? If so, I'd like one of those suggestions to be to contact some local colleges or professional sports teams to find out what the additional wear and tear is.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a real problem with a lot of the other costs. Again, I think that I do believe we need to. And again, does the fee stay the same till January? So we basically have till January 1. The way this reads, the resolution reads that these take effect January 1.
That's correct. That's what we propose. That, however, Travis is actively scheduling for 2025 now.
Yeah, that's true. And when we have the tournaments, and I think, again, on some of those tournaments, we may be lower than some, we may be higher than some, but you've got to be competitive. If you're trying to bring, and that's where that transient guest tax comes in, if you're trying to bring teams in your community, you've got to be competitive, whether it's USSSA or whoever that's coming in here, that they want to come to your facility, not just because you have good facilities, but because you're competitive from a fee structure. So I would be okay approving all the fees except for those with Kansas Wesleyan at this point.
I'm a little disappointed that none of the interested parties are in attendance. Were they notified of this?
They were notified of this action today. They were also sent the packet, the link to the packet of today's action today around noon today. But they were aware of the date and the time based on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting and the Berkeley Family Recreational Advisory Board as well.
Now, these rates are listed as college rates. They're not specifically identified as Kansas Wesleyan rates. So if we had some other college who we would have to delete.
I guess we would
specific.
just approve it less the college rates, I guess would be the best way to do it then.
Yeah, and if not to confuse it, but if it's helpful, Commissioner Davis, we've set fees and then there's a discount structure. So if we treat it as college and there's another college, then Kansas Wesleyan would get the benefit of the discount associated with their contribution where another college wouldn't.
Just to throw in a little bit of another nugget, the college rate was really applied to Bill Burke. The
That's true.
It was an oversized rate.
That's right. There was the by the game for 7 innings and 9 innings, and then there was the per hour practice rate and the per hour practice rate for teams over 40 players, 40 or more players. For Dean Evans and Pestinger, the college rate was for Bill Burke.
So the oversized team, it wouldn't matter whether they were college, professional,
It doesn't
pickup,
matter,
or
yeah.
just wouldn't matter.
Per hour, per
Okay.
practice, it would have been the $90 proposed for any team that was on the field that had 40 or more players on the field.
So does this 7-inning, 9-inning game differentiate basically between high school and college?
Is that right, Travis?
Yeah, in high school, most of your games are either going to be 5 or 7. We charge the same for that, for the 7. The 9 innings is applicable to Kansas Wesleyan or any college, really. They do play 1-9s or a semi-pro. It accounts for those. We've had that here in Salina in the past as well. So that's the difference.
Well, I think I would be okay with these fees with Commissioner Hoppeck's recommendation of amending to revisit the Kansas Wesleyan agreement.
I would, yeah, I would think we could approve it and leave off any fees associated with Kansas Wesleyan, college game rate, college practice rate, or per practice for oversized teams. And we can address those separately with Kansas Wesleyan.
Could you restate that one more time, please?
Okay, just trying to look at this. Again, it's convoluted because we're looking at Dean Evans and Bill Burke both.
Is this your motion?
Well, no, we haven't heard from the public either.
Yeah, we
so I
haven't.
can't make a motion yet.
Okay.
But I think I would probably be okay approving the rate structure we have, less any fees associated with Kansas Wesleyan, college game rate, college practice rate, or per practice for oversized team. I think that covers most
so.
of it, just off the top of my head.
We did already have public comment.
Just one, is that it? Oh, okay. Yes. Okay.
I have a question. For Bill Burke, the college practice rate and the regular practice rate and the game rates are the same. So how do you account for a regular non-college team that has, let's say, more than 40? They would get caught by the oversized.
The oversize is only applicable to Dean Evans and to Pestinger Field. The college game rate is applicable to Bill Burke.
Which
So oversized doesn't matter whether you, just anybody who's got more than,
For Dean
40.
Evans and Pestinger Family Stadium.
all right.
But I still believe at Bill Burke, there needs to be an adjustment for rec teams versus college teams practice. That's why, and again, that's addressing the Kansas Wesleyan using Bill Burke because of this, the size of athletes on that field are considerably, a 9-year-old girl's a little different than a 19-year-old girl when it comes to the wear and tear on a field.
Playing devil's advocate, if I'm Kansas Wesleyan and don't want to pay a higher rate, I just send 15 guys over there as their own pickup team, and they sign up to practice at the regular practice rate.
Where at?
Bill Burke.
Kansas
It's
Wesleyan.
the same fee right now. I mean, if we're going to
Kansas
single out,
Wesleyan men wouldn't practice at Bill Burke.
okay, I mean, or whoever at Kansas Wesleyan at Bill Burke that we're concerned is going
Softball would
to
play
tear
at
up the
Bill
field.
Burke.
I mean, if you send them over there as a college team, you've identified them. If you send them over there as just folks off the street who want to practice together.
They still have to get a reservation, correct?
But they could do that. I mean, you still got the same larger people. We're creating a system, but it's not foolproof. I just want to see how we're addressing this that, doesn't have a back door that bites us or unnecessarily penalizes somebody else. I mean, I'm just thinking through this. I mean, feel free to help me through this.
Well, you'd like to think that any of the coaching staff that represents that university is going to operate above board and not play those kind of games. I mean, at some point, the discount on fees isn't worth,
Ruining your
the damaged reputation. But maybe that's just my 2 cents and my personal feelings on it. But I understand where you're coming from. I think at some point there's a little bit of the honor system of hey, you're an entity here in town and well known, and you're going to operate in an honest fashion.
So are we trying to extract a higher fee from Kansas Wesleyan, or only when they have larger bodies on that field? I mean, I just want to know what our end game is.
I don't think it's just larger. It's also quantity, I believe.
Yeah.
Or quantity.
And there should be a higher rate because they will have, and again, you want us to quantify this, but it's but a larger player is going to wear a turf out faster than a smaller player. It's just
So
Right, but are we going to weigh the size of any other? Are we going to weigh the players of just the regular practice? I mean, I know it sounds absurd, but
well, the example I hesitate to bring up that your lead-in caused me to think about is men's softball.
yep.
men's softball plays on East Berkeley.
We no longer have a men's softball league play at Bill Burke.
Yeah, they're
It's
all
at
at East.
Berkeley
They're at
Family.
East. They're at East.
But if wear and tear is the concern, should there be a rate?
But again,
difference?
they're on dirt most of the time. Yeah, they're on dirt.
All right.
I mean,
Yeah,
the outfield.
This is
The outfield will get a little more wear, but
Yeah.
yeah, we're not talking about turf at home plate and the bases and that type of stuff. So.
When we shortened the fields at Burke, we started having them play at Berkeley Family Recreational Area on dirt.
So if we're going strictly for wear and tear, then we don't necessarily need to make Kansas Wesleyan the single target. I don't know if it can be a generic enough arrangement. Now, if on the other hand, the goal is to extract a pound of flesh because they're not contributing as much as anybody else, that's a totally different end game. I just want to know exactly
I think if
what we're trying to achieve.
leaving it as college, I know K-State, Salina used to have a softball team as well. And they had a field, but I think they don't have that field anymore. So I don't know if they use it or if they even still have that team, but doesn't mean they couldn't.
The field itself is still there.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that was more of a recreational intramural type thing than very competitive level college play.
Well, let me ask my question differently. Why do we make a distinction between college practice rate and regular practice rate if they're the same fee?
We tried to recognize USD 305, tried to recognize the school rate versus the college rate versus the private rental rate.
But they would then could they get a discount if they're a school district? I mean, the rate is the same for those two. I know we can choose to discount anybody we want, but
I think it used to be. Are you looking at the before and the after? Because it went per hour. I'm trying to figure that out.
right now I'm on page 7 of the blue sheet. That may be the wrong page, but
Which is the proposed rates
yeah.
for Bill Burke.
I was on
But
I was on the
we
I was on the actual resolution.
To accommodate what Commissioner Ivey was stating as far as Sacred Heart, USD 305, any of those school entities, we recognize that we would give them a discount. They do utilize the facility quite a bit in the afternoon.
Right.
And then a regular rate is, say, your travel team that is not associated with Parks and Recreation League, any private entity, that would be your regular rate.
Right, so the schools are already, let's say, getting their discount.
Sure. Yes.
As they should. But the college rates and the regular rates are exactly the same. I'm just wondering why we're distinguishing. I'm just throwing it out as a question to ponder.
I think the intent was the college rate. We recognize that there are more players on the field and a little more wear and tear. That's why there's distinguished between just a regular school and to the college.
Right, but you go down to that third set, it says regular practice rate and regular game rate.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same as the college rates.
Well, if you took out college, then they would fall under school. Maybe that's why it has college.
Yeah, that was thank you for the reminder. That's our intent there, was to separate school and college, and we added the college rate to separate the school and the college.
Would it be simpler if everybody went to the actual resolution? Because the resolution has the rates in it. That's what we're approving. Everybody, I think we got people looking at the blue sheet and then not looking at the resolution.
shove it.
Well, it's the first page behind the blue sheet. It's the actual resolution
Right.
that talks about it.
Oh, the
And I think
fees
that
on-
one's supposed to
okay.
be college game rate, not gate rate, correct? On number 8, item 8. It says gate rate, but I think that's supposed to be game rate.
I don't have that in front of me exactly,
Right,
but
it's
yeah.
behind you.
Most likely that is a
Yeah.
typo.
I would say that's correct. It's supposed to be game.
Yeah. That is supposed to be game.
Yeah.
In terms
And
of the
this-
school, practice rate is 12, and the college practice rate is 17.
So the regular practice and game rates are the same as the college practice and game rates. You know, I'm just,
No?
they're not?
No, you're looking at before. If you go to the after, it's per hour.
Yeah, but the
After,
college practice rate is
That was per
$17 an
season.
hour.
Is this Bill Burke? That bottom portion is Bill Burke if you look
Yes,
at it.
it is.
Before, they charged college $300 a season. Now they're charging per hour.
I think what Commissioner Davis is saying is item number 7, college practice rate is $17 an hour. Item number 9, regular practice rate is also $17 an hour.
Yeah.
And then item number 8, college game rate is $22 an hour. And item 10, regular game rate is also $22 an hour.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I think you can
Yeah, I got you. I
simplify
was
this.
looking up above and not down
Yeah.
below. I apologize.
But you have your regular rates, and then you have your high school and under, they get in for a lower rate. Because that's the only real distinction between high school and under and everybody, you know, seemingly, I guess, above 17 years old, everybody older than that, because, you know, we're making according to this, an artificial separation between college and regular, yet we're going to go negotiate the college rate differently.
So if we were to negotiate the college rate, I would prefer to leave the regular rate where it's at.
So if I'm the college, I'm going to say, so what makes you think I cost you more than a regular team that's just as big? It may be a correct assumption, but if I was the college, that's what I'd ask you. In other words, why should I pay more just because I'm a college? And there may be a good answer. I'm just listening for it.
Because most of our practice and games at Bill Burke are going to be 12 and under? Or does 14 and under move up to Berkeley pretty much?
Yeah, so answer your question, any softball can be played at Bill Burke,
Right.
Except the men's or the co-ed,
Right.
but any fast pitch can be played at Bill Burke. And any baseball that's 12 and under can be played at Bill Burke. Once you get over that 12 under hump, then you have to go up on the hill and play some bigger distances.
I mean, unless we want to sit down and review every one of these in a study session, I mean, the best I can come up with right now, if we need to approve this, is to just approve it the way it is, less the college rates, the oversized team rates, and then
Or lower the number for the oversized team rates. Maybe 40 is too high.
well,
Then it applies to any
We're
large
not only talking
team.
numbers, we're talking size of athletes.
Right, so if a team of high school seniors who's on a traveling baseball team, I'm probably making this up, comes up with 40 guys and they want to play, they're going to pay less than Kansas Wesleyan with some sophomores 2 years older, but not much difference in weight and size.
I understand what you're saying, but at some point, there's got to be a delineation. And it's just like, you know, you start grouping, like, for instance, students, middle school, high school, college. There's a delineation there. And I think, you know, there's probably some exceptions to this rule, but I bet the average college baseball player is going to play with a little bit more intensity and vigor than, say, your average high school player. And obviously, there's going to be outliers. on both ends of that, but I think it's a foregone conclusion that, like, if you were to compare college athletes to professional athletes, you know, that there's another delineation, more intense play, more rigorous play. And I think that's a pretty good argument to be made. And again, we come back to the number of players on the field with the Wesleyan practices, and that's, you know, I feel bad keep singling them out, but the fact of the matter is that's something that's been observed. That's a fact that we're dealing with in this particular situation.
So are there any people older than college players who fit into this regular practice rate? Guess if I knew that, I could probably stop being a fly in the ointment here.
In the past, we have facilitated for semi-pro. It could have been the Blue Jays, the Stockade.
That's
as
at
in the
Dean.
past.
That's not at Bill Burke.
Okay.
Yeah.
Salvador Perez
If you're
and Bobby
talking,
Witt aren't
Commissioner
stopping here
Dave,
to play.
you're talking of Bill Burke.
Yep.
I apologize for that. Kansas Wesleyan softball is probably your older group that would play on that facility.
Okay.
Do we want to further discuss this, or do we want to bring a motion?
Well, I think staff knows what our questions are. I mean, you can approve what you can and with instructions to get information on what we can approve. I mean, I'm hoping the turnaround time on that wouldn't be too much. I wouldn't want to drag it out too far because teams making plans for next year have to budget for their
And that's
expenses.
part of the reason we're trying to give Travis this now. Is that, you know, they start setting up tournaments in advance. So we'll start taking reservations for tournaments for next summer, probably in, I don't know, November, maybe even before that.
We're doing that now.
Okay. The other question I have is, will we revisit the fee structure, this resolution every year? So we'll be addressing, like we do all of our other fees and everything else annually.
That's the intent of the Dean Evans agreement, and it kind of picks
And
up.
same thing with Bill
Pestinger.
Burke. So
Right.
if we see we have an issue, we have it in a year, we'll address it at that point. But I think staff now knows what we're looking for, so that'll help us. But I think we just need to address, you know, go ahead and approve. Like I said, I'm okay with approving this and asking for further discussion for the college game rates, college practice rates per practice for oversized teams, and Kansas Wesleyan fees at Dean Evans and Pestinger.
So, if I understand correctly, those would be items 4, 7, and 8 on the resolution?
4, 7, and 8.
I would say
And then
item 2 would be the 9-inning game.
What, could, but, well, and then, because this doesn't break out, so where would when we get the Dean Evans, and again, I said what addresses Kansas Wesleyan would be the 9-inning games and then the Dean Evans Pestinger Stadium per practice also? Is that?
Just to clarify, that Kansas Wesleyan does play 7-inning games as well. They'll play 2 7s or a 1-9.
Yeah.
Just to throw that out there.
I'm not sure there's that much difference in games. I think it's the practice that I'm more concerned about. The games
So, let me try to recap. Adopt it with striking 4, 7, and 8, and instructing staff to revisit 3 specific to college use?
Mm-hmm.
So adopt 3, but
No,
request
don't adopt.
a clarification related to college use.
Right.
And
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
instead of distracting the city manager, I'll ask him a question in this manner. In that after column, in that we want to prepare a resolution that would be appropriate for signature, I gather would be the objective. Is it a to be determined type designation in the after column, or how would we?
Sure. We'd probably ought to strike the before column. We don't typically have before in our adoptions, but so you're suggesting that item 4 be amended from $90 an hour to TBD. That item 7 be amended from $17 an hour to TBD. Item 8 be amended from $22 to TBD. Item 3 remains because there's others that have need for that, but there's instruction to staff to revisit and provide a clarification for a college rate.
Probably should, maybe if you add, maybe we need to add a category.
And then make it TBD?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to end up renumbering. But you want to insert between 3 and 4 a Dean Evans, Pestinger per practice college rate.
Yeah.
TBD.
And I still don't
Okay.
know that you have defined the regular practice rate as sufficiently distinct from a college team as far as the parameters that we're going to charge them extra for. Is there?
I think, and staff correct me if I'm wrong, I think what we were trying to do there is really have a regular practice rate and a high school and younger school rate, recognizing that a college might indicate, well, we're a school as well. So we created a college rate to clarify they're not the school rate, they're the regular rate.
That one I understand, fully agree with. I'm just, and maybe this team doesn't exist in the real world. Distinguishing the college team from whoever this other regular team is that, if the only people using it are college and high school, then you just meet high school and adult rates.
You could leave that door open, though, for like the NBC tournament in Wichita just concluded. It's kind of like college semi-pro. One of those teams wanted to come up here and practice.
So they get charged the
That's where
college
they would
rate or
fit
the
in.
regular rate?
Or a travel team, correct?
Right.
Yeah, so regular would be a travel team, someone or a team not associated with our league, or just, hey, I got a private team, I want to use the facility, they get the regular rate.
As long as they don't use it as hard as the college did. We tell them to be ginger with our field.
Maybe
don't slide.
Again, this
All
is
right.
we're getting really convoluted considering this is a study session. Maybe we need a rate for if somebody wants to use it from out of town. It's a higher rate too because they're not a taxpayer and they're not they haven't paid.
Yeah, but they've made the trip to Salina. I mean, that says if they've come here once for a game, they're going to come back to visit for something else. If their parents bring them, their parents will come back to the Steeple. I mean, I don't mind them getting the same rate. I just want to make sure we define the groups so that when 10 college kids come up to practice, they don't get charged a college rate when they're just there by themselves.
Well, I think we could.
And again, I think we're talking about this. We're talking about this once in a who knows how often deal. I'm talking about when we're talking about Kansas West, we're talking about somebody that's using it 60% of the time. I'm not. If there's one team that comes in and practices and we don't get our extra $20 or $50, it doesn't break us. But if we have somebody using it every day that's not paying their fair share, that breaks the bank. So I'm not worried about that exception to the rule. Maybe I can't worry about. I mean, we could make this list 80 different items if we wanted to try to hit everything. I think we at some point have to come up with something we can live with. And again, we have this in a year. If Travis and Jeff come back to us next year and say, hey, we had this happen, we need to add a new column, we'll do that.
Or
But I
can you
don't
just
see
put a
some-
limit of how many people can practice on one field at a time?
That's, I mentioned that, yeah. I mean, we need to, those are
Maybe
discussions,
lower than 40. But yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's discussions we need to have, and we're looking at a cost recovery and how much somebody's using it. How do we get to that number? And I don't know what that is. That's why we have to have some serious conversations between staff and Kansas Wesleyan and whoever else is involved in that. And again, I don't even know if we know what that number is right now. I have a number in my head, but I don't know if that's a number anybody else has.
Well, does someone want to put a motion on the floor? Or do we want to table this?
Again, we need to approve a portion of it so that Travis can do his job. Or he can go home for the week, right? Nah, not probably, but,
Would you like me to take a shot at it?
I have some notes here, and let me see if I can look at see if this follows yours.
Okay.
Okay.
I've got so many notes, I'll see if I can keep up.
Because I think this would fall under number 2, approve the resolution with these changes, is the way you have it. So I would, Mayor Longbine, I would move we approve resolution number 24-8210 to accept updated fee structure for rental fees effective January 1, 2025 for use of Dean Evans Stadium, Pestinger Family Stadium, and Bill Burke Memorial Park as related to synthetic turf fields with the following amendments. Per resolution number 248210, item 3, Dean Evans Pestinger Stadium per practice. I think we left that the same, didn't we? Because we added.
Yes.
Yeah, and to add Dean Evans Pestinger Stadium per practice college use rate to be determined. Number 4, Dean Evans Pestinger Stadium per practice for oversized team to be determined. Number 7, Bill Burke Memorial Park college practice rate to be determined. And item 8, Bill Burke Memorial Park college game rate to be determined.
And strike the before column in its entirety.
And strike the before column.
And renumber to insert the Dean Evans per practice college rate between 3 and 4.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 24-8210 to update the fee structured rental fees as of January 1st, 2025 for Dean Evans, Pestinger, and Bill Burke Memorial Park as related to synthetic turf fields with amendments as the commission deems necessary, appropriate. And we will amend item 3, 4, 7, and 8 and determine those fees at a later date. All in favor, say aye.
We're actually not amending 3, we're adding an item between 3 and 4.
Okay, and add.
Sorry, if I was you, I would have just said per, what I said.
What Hoppick said. Are we okay with that?
I'm confident the city clerk has it.
Yeah, we'll make them.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 5.3, fire apparatus.
Item 5.3, fire apparatus purchase and disposal, consists of 3 action items. Item 5.3A is to authorize the city manager to sign an agreement for donation of Engine 6, Fire Department Unit 426, to Salina Area Technical College. Item 5.3B is to authorize the disposal of surplus property of 6 fire apparatus. And item 5.3C is to authorize the purchase of new rescue tools and various new fire equipment for a total purchase price of $302,683.96.
Chief Herzog.
Yes, Chief Herzog, Battalion Chief, Salina Fire. Back at it again. So with the blue sheet, I can read through it to you guys, and then if you guys have questions during, please feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer. And then, yeah, as it's mentioned, it's kind of convoluted in a sense. We threw a lot in there, so it's kind of 3 blue sheets into one, so got a couple different motions at the end. So the background, November 23rd, for those of you who remember, we had a study session for presentation for purchasing options and new fire apparatus. New rescue equipment as well as additional fire equipment was discussed. During that presentation, it was explained that if the new apparatus purchase was approved, we'd be back here as we are now with new rescue tools, as well as some new portable lighting and ventilation equipment that would be needed to be purchased for these apparatus. The reasons necessitating the new equipment, with the new stock production fire apparatus that the gentleman approved, they're not typically equipped with onboard generators as they've done in the past because of the extravagant expense on top of that, or the plumbed hydraulic rescue tools. Alternatively, the technology available with our battery-operated equipment has advanced to the point where the battery-operated equipment is super reliable and efficient. The decision for purchasing battery-operated rescue and fire equipment enhances our overall operational capabilities and minimizes the time that would be necessary to place the new apparatus in service. This is also more cost-effective by purchasing the stock production apparatus versus a custom fire apparatus. That's saved us a significant amount of money on the cost of the overall apparatus. Except for Engine 6, which is Unit 426, we have enlisted the services of Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus to broker the sale of our used fire trucks, which again we discussed in our study session. Brindley Mountain specializes in brokering sales of used fire apparatus and equipment across the U.S. Our EVT, if you guys remember Casey Stevenson, he's been the contact with Brindley, in contact with, and they provided some sales estimates on the apparatus that we're wishing to get rid of. And there's a list in there in the blue sheet. So the total for that equipment, if we get that much out of them, is $765,000 is what Brindley Mountain is estimating that they're worth for selling them. Brindley Mountain handles all the marketing of the used apparatus. Casey has given them a complete description of the apparatus, including pictures, and they list the asking price. Contact information, like I said, is in here with our EVT. We currently have 3. I was thinking we just added one, but yeah, it's still 3. Quint 4, Engine 2, and Rescue 3. There's been a little bit of interest on the first 2, the Quint 4 and Engine 2, that we're looking to get rid of. Nothing yet on the Rescue 3 yet. Earlier this year, upon learning of the City Commission authorizing the purchase of the apparatus back in February, Salina Area Tech reached out with some interest in acquiring a reserve apparatus for their growing fire science program that they have there at the college. Asked if we, the Salina Fire Department, felt that the city would be willing to donate one of the old reserve engines, very similar to what we did with the old 75-foot Quint. That was 3-4 years ago. Yeah. So the department was with the city manager's office, discussed with him, and received authorization to move forward, obviously with your guys' approval. With that donation of Engine 6, it's an 89 Pierce custom fire engine. It is in reserve status. Give that to Salina Area Tech for their use in their fire science ed program. It does present an opportunity and benefits not only just the college, but for us as a community. It provides them with a needed training resource as they're trying to grow their program, and goes along with the relationship that we have with them, the City of Salina, the fire department, enhancing that educational experience for their fire and emergency responder students. Experience of training and utilizing actual fire equipment, right, is valuable as it allows students to familiarize themselves with equipment and procedures they will encounter in their professional careers when they graduate. The equipment will allow the college to maintain high educational standards and attract prospective students. Stress on the educational benefits for the college underscores value of the donation for this institution. Additionally, the donation would strengthen that collaboration that we have between us and the college. We currently assist with training Salina Area Tech EMT students. We provide internships for them to gain some real-life experience when they ride with us on our medic units. Our goal is to be able to provide the same internship experience to the fire science students with a goal of recruitment for future employees. The internship process allows students as well as the department an opportunity to see how well the student might fit in as an employee for the Salina Fire Department. In 21, City Commission authorized City Manager to donate a previous fire apparatus. Here, I got ahead of myself. With 75-foot quint that we just talked about. The apparatus donated Salina Area Tech at that time was 94 Smeal 75-foot quint. The apparatus donated for essentially the same reasons that we just talked about. If the donation of this apparatus is not authorized by the City Commission, an estimate from Brindley Mountain will be obtained and the apparatus will be listed for sale by the broker. Based on other similar apparatus listed for sale, which is very similar to Engine 5 that we have, it's approximately $25,000, give or take, in value through Brindley Mountain. As far as new equipment, currently the department operates with electrical powered ventilated fans and a few gas ones that operate 110 volt power. And additionally, most of that portable lighting utilized by the department is electrical also, requires 110 volt power. Typically that power is sourced from the fire apparatus, utilizing an onboard generator of some kind. As presented during that study session in November, the new apparatus do not have those generators on them. This necessitates the purchase of this additional equipment that we're coming here to you for today to provide ventilation for those houses on fire and lighting on the fire ground and inside the structures. The new equipment will replace a wide variety of rescue tools and other electric-powered fireground equipment. Currently, we operate with a combination of some older 24-volt battery-operated cutter spreader combination rescue tools on the rescue trucks and on some of the fire trucks. And the two rescue trucks also have some pumped hydraulic rescue tools that are tied to the truck via those lines. The 24-volt rescue system, is proprietary and is not compatible with the 18-volt battery system that we have moved towards, and the brand is moving towards. Stated earlier, the stock production rescue trucks do not have the plumbed hydraulic rescue tools. So the new equipment will consist of battery-operated rescue tools. When we're talking about, I'm talking about the Jaws of Life, right, the big spreaders, cutters, for each apparatus. So each apparatus, front and reserve, would end up with a combination cutting, spreading, battery-operated hydraulic rescue tool. And then the two rescue trucks would have additional battery-operated cutting, lifting, and spreading tools for the bigger, heavier-duty rescues. The proposal also consists of battery-operated ventilation fans for removing smoke and toxic gases from structures, as well as battery-operated scene lighting. Each apparatus will have a complement of battery-operated equipment ready for immediate use. Each piece of the battery-operated equipment utilizes the same Milwaukee 12-amp-hour lithium 18-volt battery, therefore making continuity of operations much more efficient, as all the batteries be the same throughout the department. We're not worried about this size for this equipment, and so on. Multiple batteries and battery chargers are included in these quotes for each of the pieces of equipment. Battery-operated equipment ensures continuity of operations regardless of which apparatus the equipment is on and who is assigned to the apparatus, as the batteries are interchangeable from one tool to the next. We currently operate some Milwaukee battery-operated tools such as cordless drills. We have cordless sawzalls, cordless chainsaws, and some other smaller hand tools. Power produced by the battery-operated equipment superior to that of comparable corded electrical powered tools and equipment. Additionally, the department spent several months with two different brands of the battery-operated positive pressure vent fans. We were allowed to use those in training, use them on some calls. We kind of got to put them through the ringer. They're not only smaller than what we currently have, but they're lighter, easier to move around, more agile on the fire ground itself. And they perform really well. As for the battery-operated portable lighting, the size of battery being utilized to power the light at full power and lumens for over 8 hours continually on the fire ground. According to the manufacturers, with the advances in technology, the battery-operated hydraulic rescue tools can produce more hydraulic pressure, and produce the pressure more rapidly than traditional power unit hydraulic rescue tools, because it's all here. We're not worried about drawing that pressure, back from a pump. The department has utilized first-generation battery-operated cutter spreader combination tools on rescue trucks for nearly 10 years. The first generation used the 24-volt battery that we talked a little bit about before, not as efficient as the new 18-volt systems. So the 24-volt system doesn't have the same power, not as efficient as the 18-volt. However, the 24-volt battery-operated rescue tools currently being used by the department have proven that they're highly reliable. We've had good luck with them. We just know that the upgrade is there. By not having the rescue tools tethered to the apparatus or a power unit with hydraulic lines, it will also make rescue situations much more efficient, as all the rescue tools can be used simultaneously of each other. What that gets at, some of the pump stuff, you can use a tool, but you've got to go back to the truck, switch the pressure over to the other tool, use that tool, go back to the truck, switch the pressure over, the way it's set up. So we got a few factors to take into consideration for following the single source policy, which would be for the rescue tools. The current hydraulic and older battery-operated rescue tools utilized by the department are manufactured by T&T. We have not experienced any substantial issues with the tools. The department has utilized T&T brand rescue tools. We have both hydraulic power units and the battery-operated for a little over 10 years now. T&T provides what we've found to be the best warranty in the hydraulic, whether it's hydraulic or battery-operated, still hydraulic. Rescue tool industry with a lifetime warranty. And in the rare event that we have had anything, KC Rudd, our EBT, is certified to do warranty repair on those tools, which is a huge bonus. And due to the sales territory of this brand of cutter, only one dealer is authorized in the state of Kansas to sell this equipment, so that's why we're looking at the single source. So sole source purchasing authorization is being requested for the equipment listed in here. If you're looking at it, right, that total for those rescue tools with the batteries comes out at, let me find it, $214,285. And then we went out for the rest of the equipment, and quotes are obtained. We went out to 5 different vendors for the fans and the portable lighting, the batteries, the chargers, all that. And there is an attachment for you guys that shows what those 5 vendors came back at. We went into it and separated those out, and so we're looking at Wise Fire for their fans. There's tubes listed on here, so those tubes, I'll just break that down real quick. So we're looking at 8 regular size fans, 18-inch and 3 16-inch, and the tubes are for the 16-inch. The reason for the smaller fans are for the rescue trucks and the hazmat trucks. They come with tubes, gives us the ability to put something in a confined space to blow out the air for that, so that's why it looks different than the others. That total for Wise Fire comes out at $59,863.67. And then the rest of the equipment, looking to purchase from Tool Time. These are the portable tower lights, the portable little flood lights, putting chargers on all the trucks to carry all these extra batteries, and then 60 extra batteries to make sure that we can maintain everything that we need while we're on scene. That low bid was Tool Time, and that was $28,535.29. I forgot to mention, so the Wise bid for the fans was also the low bid. Future action has been identified. We went up end of July, I guess. Looked at the first truck that's coming in, and looking at the other trucks, we noticed that we made a mistake. We did not get in-cab communications ordered on these trucks, so they're not in there. So we're working to try to attain some bids for that hardware and installation of this system. Once bids have been obtained, we'll be back at City Commission for approval. I think we're looking at maybe next commission meeting to try and get that done. By the time it was like a perfect storm. We were up there. I came back and I was on vacation, and half the rest of the committee went to FRI. And by the time we got back and tried to get bids, we couldn't get it done. So by next commission meeting, hopefully we'll have that. So the in-cab vehicle communication headsets, right there, earmuffs, right? Essentially, they've got the mics on, so we can talk to dispatch, talk to each other, talk to other trucks, without being drowned out by the noise of the siren. and they connect, directly to our 800 radio system. As far as the fiscal note goes, per Brindley Mountain, as stated before, the estimated total sale price of apparatus being sold, estimated $765,000. And the total cost of replacement equipment, including the communication system, we're pretty sure, we've got some bids back, so I think we'll be under that 10 grand pretty easy, is $372,683.96. The original purchase cost of the new apparatus was budgeted for the full purchase amount and didn't take into consideration, using any of the sale of the used apparatus as a credit to the amount authorized by the City Commission. The original presentation for the apparatus purchase was noted that a request would be brought back to you gentlemen to utilize those proceeds for the sale of the used apparatus to offset, this equipment we're talking about today. The proceeds from the sales of these apparatus and cost of the new equipment would be put into the Vehicle and Equipment Fund, and any upfront funding would be paid out of that fund. Currently, the estimated 24 year-end fund balance of this fund is set at $940,000. Then a little side note, so the apparatus, they will not all be sold at the same time. As the new apparatus come online, we'll be putting those up for sale as their replacements come in. So yeah, when the new apparatus arrives and put into service, the old apparatus will be trying to be sold and pushed out of here. That was a lot, real quick. So do you guys have any questions?
I do have one question regarding the TNT equipment. Are those batteries all cross-compatible so that?
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yes, yeah. So the intent with this, and we talked about it a little bit in the study session, going with this. So when this happens, those old tools get sold out. Everything that we have from our drills, our impact wrenches, sawzalls to the rescue tools, they will all be 12 amp, 18 volt Milwaukee batteries. So they are 100% cross compatible. There will no longer be that's the wrong color, that's the wrong size, it is 100% across the board the same. Yes, sir.
It's a good battery.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Just so we don't spend all the money too soon, how much of a fee does Brindley Mountain get for selling our equipment?
So some of that, I wish Casey was here. He's a little busy because he's going with me tomorrow back up to Wisconsin to look at our second truck. I don't remember. I have an idea, but I don't want to tell you because I might be wrong. But part of it is depending upon who sells it. Okay, so if you contact Brindley Mountain and Brindley Mountain gives us your information and blah, 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 they get a cut. If you contact me directly and it's just you and I talking, Brindley Mountain's out of it.
Okay.
So I don't know if Chief Pearson knows what that percentage is or remembers what it is.
Thank you guys. Chief Pearson, Deputy Chief of the Salina Fire Department. It's based on percentages, so without pulling I don't remember if the documents were in the packet or not, from the contract from Brindley Mountain. I thought it was in the file, maybe.
It seemed reasonable when you read it.
Yes, absolutely. So 10% is the highest, a 10% commission. The higher the dollar value of the apparatus we sell, the lower that commission becomes. So, the ladder truck that's going to be up for sale at some point is roughly estimated at $450,000 in value for sale price. That apparatus will at most get it's either 6 or 7% commission to Brindley Mountain if they broker the sale. If that makes sense.
Yep. Thank you.
Does that encompass the shipping?
Once it's purchased, the purchaser is responsible for getting that vehicle picked up from here.
So do they typically use a transport?
Some of the bigger trucks are a distance. It depends on how far it's going. I believe years ago when we sold the old 1980s ladder truck, those gentlemen came from West Virginia or somewhere and drove that thing all the way back home.
So when our trucks come from Wisconsin, will they be on a transport or they're
actually
driving here?
No, they'll come to Olathe to the dealer. Typically they drive them though, just because the distance is not, it's an 8-hour drive roughly. to the dealer in Olathe, and then they'll be driven out here for final delivery. But the warranty is very similar to our ambulances. We go to the factory and pick those up, but the warranty starts when it arrives in Salina, as far as the mileage and that sort of thing.
On the tool replacement, will you sell the old tools or dispose of them, or what happens to them?
Yeah, so the tools on the rescue trucks are being sold with the trucks. Due to the, I don't know if you want to call it decreased value, especially with the old backup rescue truck, the committee felt, I think the department even felt that way, and Brindley Mountain definitely felt that way, that selling the tools got you here, but when you were able to sell it with the truck, there was more value in selling those tools with the old trucks.
What about like the fans?
So the fans are going to be, that we have not decided yet. Because there's only going to be, I'm trying to think, I want to say like 8 or 9 total. Some of those will go, I know Drew has talked about a possibility of training, right? Keeping those around, having something like in our burn room for training. And then those are going to have to be a ticket. We've already talked about a few things equipment-wise that are coming on and off the trucks, like, well, we don't need this anymore. So there's going to be like a garage sale essentially at some point that would get in with the rest of the city stuff at the end of the year and sell possibly.
I am happy that a lot of people don't know that Tool Time is a local company.
Mm-hmm.
So we are utilizing 2 local companies.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Where is the rescue specialist located?
So he's actually in Salina.
Oh,
Yeah.
huh.
It's a weird address. It's like something Main Street, but he's in Salina.
Okay.
Actually lives outside of town.
So we are keeping all the money in Salina.
In a way, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Any further questions? I did have one on the donation. I see Ms. Gutierrez is here from Salina Tech. What's the status of their fire science program?
Have at.
Just scoot it over.
Yep.
Hi there, Brenda Gutierrez from Salina Area Technical College. I'm the executive director of the foundation. So gifts like this come through the foundation. That's part of the reason that I get to speak to you folks today. And Greg has a board meeting right now. This is our monthly board meeting, so I apologize that he's not here to answer your questions directly. When you say status, school started Thursday. So we are just kicking off the semester. We have 2 instructors. One's the full-time, like they're in our instructor, and then adjuncts. So the program has, I met them today, 3 post-secondary students and 11 high school students. And they were just picking up their books today from the bookstore.
So this is the first year for the program?
No, they've been on campus 3 years. Before they were in USD 305, so in the space at our USD 305, and then we brought them out to our Salina Tech campus, and that allows other students. So post-secondary students can come to our campus, El Saline, Southeast Saline, or any of the other 14 schools that we have agreements with. Those students can come take that program. So as they mentioned, the growing program, this affords that opportunity for other communities to benefit from this training.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Comments? A lot of information.
It was a lot of information real quick. Yep. As an update, I will tell you. So we did look at, Shane was in the group that we went up. There was 4 of us went up in July, looked at our first quint. It'll be here, I guess it's almost September now. It'll be here soon. We're going up tomorrow to do the final on our hazmat truck. Should take both of those, delivery of those sometime next month. It's going to be coordinating with Pierce to get them down here for the training on the aerial. And then looking at, try and remember this, I just was telling guys yesterday, the middle to end of October, the other quint should be done. November, like middle of November, should be the ladder truck. December should be the heavy rescue truck. In January, we should be doing the final for the 2 engines. So in theory, everything goes good, knock on wood, we'll be up and running with all all the brand-new trucks by about the same time we signed contract in February.
And they'll be able to wire in this in-cab comm system.
Yes, that's the people that we're looking at currently now are Wisefire, Conrad, who we purchased the trucks through, and then First Wireless, who we purchase our radios and stuff through, have the ability to do that. So we're getting bids from those three companies to have them put those in.
Okay.
Yep.
So I was going to wait till after he took action, but as Chief Herzog listed off that whole list of equipment, I'd like to make the point now. It's not that many years ago we didn't know how to afford a truck, or didn't know if we could afford a truck, nor did we know how to fit it in with all the other priorities that the city organization had. So this is a major accomplishment to be able to fund this fleet the first pass and have a plan to have a replacement schedule as well in amongst the rest of our capital improvement planning and our vehicle and fleet planning. This is major progress.
It is. It was very eye-opening afterwards. Received several calls since February when we were up there in Wisconsin, met some other departments from across the country. A couple were jealous that we could go with stock trucks because of how fast it is. Their process doing the custom trucks is 3.5 to 4 years, right? And you're riding that wave of cost because who knows what it's going to be. So this turned out to be very, very good.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Well, this is Chief Snyder, and I wanted everybody to know what you heard from Chief Herzog. I will tell you that he is the reason we're here. He was given the apparatus task. He's also been given the tool task, and he put together a team, and they did a fantastic job. So many, many kudos to he and the people that he worked with for this. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I didn't see you on there.
He's hiding up there.
I don't have a video in this laptop, so I do apologize, but I made sure I left the training early to be on here. I wanted to make sure I was here to listen to this. It's vitally important for our success.
So any further questions? So I guess if you want to go A, B, and C, I guess, to put them, for commission action, the item A would be that the commission authorize city manager to sign an agreement for donation of engine 6, which we talked about, to Salina Area Technical College. And there's some others in there, but obviously we recommend option number 1.
Mayor, a question, if I may, at an appropriate time.
Yeah, and I don't know if these need to be, when we list them off single and approve individually.
Yeah, one kind of impacts the other. So, and we also need to take public comment at some point.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to be sure that before we got to that point that probably need to ask Ms. Gutierrez if the agreement actually needs to be with the foundation rather than the college. We had prepared it in anticipation that it would be the college, but that's why your point prompted me to ask.
Do you know last time how they did it?
I don't recall. I don't recall. And if it's not problematic for the commission, I suppose you could authorize either. But I just wanted to be sure we didn't specify the college if it
That's
didn't.
kind of years ago was with the college itself, with the Salina Area Tech rather than the foundation.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have a thought as to how we can safely?
I would say if you've already set it up like that, that was okay before.
Okay.
Still, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can I add are you back to public comment?
Go ahead, Ms. Gutierrez.
I'll come back and say thank you on behalf of the students, and I know you mentioned about recruiting. So when you think about recruiting and students coming, it's not only recruiting for folks that might be students, that would be the high school or post-secondary, but the employers. So when other folks, when you think about the chamber, they bring guests on campus, and last week in town for 2 days, it was a leadership group that came on our campus. They were there for a day. Leadership Salina always spends a day on our campus. There are different levels of folks that get to see what we have when we get to do a show and tell, as well as my peers. So when other colleges, junior colleges and technical colleges visit Salina Area Technical College, they get a ooh and ah at the resources that we have. And then go down a little bit younger, this last summer and summers previously for our summer tech camp, the middle school and high school students have the opportunity to participate in the fire science program. So when you're looking at recruiting and let's give them some ideas, let's get them on campus, let them see what it's like for some of these technical trades. This really does afford that. Those students, they really do put on the uniforms, they really are out there with the fire hoses, on the trucks, and they also get a tour the Salina Airport Authority Fire Station. So again, partnerships. We wouldn't have this program if it weren't for the support of all the folks here in the community. So I wanted to echo for our president, Greg, who isn't here right now, and for myself and all of our board of directors, thank you for what you've done up till now and then moving forward. This is a remarkable program that we can have this here in Salina. And then if our graduates want to go on and do the program in the testing in Hutch, there's all these agreements in place to make it possible to help people in Kansas and to help people in North Central Kansas. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this item, these items?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Mark Labes is online. Mark, if you want to go ahead.
Looks like you're muted, Mr. Labes. Mr. Labes, can you hear us? I believe you're muted.
Excuse me. Have you looked at Department of Defense for replacements, Navy, Air Force, Army, etc., for replacement because they have, even though it may not be under warranty, they have exceptional records of maintenance and all of that before you replace. I have no problems with the city of Salina selling things to various institutions, but to set cost, and considering I spent 20 plus years in the Air Force and the Army and I know maintenance, did you guys consider that before purchasing new? Because most warranties are no offense. We can buy a battery, it tends to be crap anyway. But Department of Defense, you can look at Fort Riley, you can look at 190th Air Refueling Wing, etc., for used equipment, which would save taxpayers a lot of money at the end. Thank you.
Any other comments? Bring this back for action.
Mayor Longline, I move we authorize the city manager to sign an agreement for donation of Engine 6 to Salina Area Technical College.
Second.
A motion and a second to authorize the city manager to sign an agreement for donation of Engine 6 to Salina Area Technical College. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Commissioners, item B would be that the commissioners authorize disposal of surplus property of the remaining 6 fire apparatus utilizing the services of Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus to broker the sale. Again, that's our recommendation.
Mayor Longmine, I move we authorize the disposal of surplus property of 6 fire apparatus utilizing the service of Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus to broker the sale.
Second.
A motion and a second to authorize the disposal of surplus property of 6 fire apparatus utilizing the services of Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus to broker the sale. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Item C.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, item C on this blue sheet is that the commission authorize the purchase of TNT battery-operated hydraulic rescue equipment in the amount of $214,285 from rescue specialists utilizing the City of Salina's sole source purchasing policy guidelines, and that you guys authorize the purchase of SuperVac vent fans and fan tubes in the amount of $59,863.67 from Wise Fire, and authorize the purchase of Milwaukee battery-operated lighting equipment in the amount of $28,535.29 from Tool Time. And again, staff recommends that option unless you guys have amendments.
Okay. Mayor Longbine, I move we authorize the purchase of TNT battery-operated hydraulic rescue equipment in the amount of $214,285 from rescue specialists utilizing the City of Salina's sole source purchasing policy guidelines. Authorize the purchase of SuperVac ventilation fans and fan tubes in the amount of $59,863.67 from Weiss Fire, and authorize the purchase of Milwaukee battery-operated lighting equipment in the amount of $28,535.29 from Tool Time.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to authorize the purchase of TNT battery-operated hydraulic rescue equipment in the amount of $214,285 from rescue specialists utilizing the Cities of Salina's sole source purchasing policy guidelines, and authorize the purchase of SuperVac vent fans and fan tubes in the amount of $58,863.67 from Wise Fire, and authorize the purchase of Milwaukee battery-operated lighting equipment in the amount of $28,535.29 from Tool Time. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Look.
I don't know if Jacob would do it, but you guys want to see pictures real quick? Of the apparatus?
I didn't hear.
He's got pictures of the apparatus, apparatus
Oh,
under
the new
production,
truck.
if you want to see it.
Live with me.
If you want to see them real quick, if not.
Yeah, I kind of missed, Chief Pearson had been sending a little update link. I haven't seen one for a while.
We can do that again.
It'll be in the inbox in the morning, right?
This evening, it will be ready for you tomorrow morning. Actually, tonight, if you want to look.
Okay. Yeah, we look forward to seeing the new trucks roll in. That's amazing how fast they're producing them.
Once they get started, they move right along.
Okay. So do you have the picture, Jacob?
Just go to Colorado Fire.
I have, but not. I mean, I followed the link that you sent me.
Oh, yeah. So this is the Quint that we went and looked at the end of July, first part of August. So we'll be getting another one that looks just like this. So it's a little different than what we currently have. We have white with red over top. These are all red with some black and change the logo up a little bit, little ghosted Maltese on the back, but pretty sharp looking trucks. So we'll have two of those, then we'll have one that'll have the basket on it. But they'll all have that paint scheme, so. Exit there. So this is currently our ladder truck as of last week. So this is our 4th truck where they've already started progress. So this is the one that we're looking at getting in November. So like I said, just started that and they'll have that in November. So they go pretty quick with, I think it told us 4,000 trucks a year. That's what they produce through their 2 plants. So pretty impressive. Anyway, thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Developmental business, item 6.1.
Item 6.1, approve resolution number 24-8228, setting the date of public hearing for declaring 122 West Jewell Avenue a dangerous structure as October 14th, 2024.
Mr. Furbeck.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Maybe it's evening. It is evening. I'm Sean Furbeck, Dangerous Structure Specialist with the Community and Development Services. Today, I'm here to talk to you about the request for a public hearing at 122 East Jewell. KSA 12-1750 provides a roadmap for the process. And I'm not going to read all that like he did. The next slide is to ensure procedural fairness and due to the process. The building official's evidence is not enclosed with the staff report to the commission prior to the public hearing. The building official's evidence will be presented to the city commission for the first time during the public hearing. The timeline that we have set is, if this resolution is approved, we would follow our established guidelines for notification and then ask that the public hearing date be set for October 14th, 2024. If the public hearing is warranted, the commission will be asked to make a decision about this property. As you can see from this slide, there are 2 different actions which would result from granting a public hearing: repair or demolition of the structure. Or if the property is not deemed dangerous, the structure will be dealt with the same manner as any other property maintenance issue. In the event that the structure is demolished by the city, state law provides a process. The cost of the demolition will be billed to the property owner, and if payment is not made, a special assessment is filed against the land on which the structure is located for reimbursement. This slide contains information about the property. Most of this can be found inside of your packet as far as address, legal description. And this is a vacant structure. On the resolution, our option number 1 is setting October 14th, 2024 as a public hearing date for the structure located at 122 East Jewell Avenue. Number 2 would be to approve Resolution 24-8228 with amendments setting an alternative date as the public hearing date for the dangerous structure located at 122 East Jewell Avenue. Number 3 would be postpone consideration of Resolution 24-8228 to a specified date and time and provide staff direction regarding additional information or amendments the City Commission would like to request for the further consideration. Or number 4 would be to deny. Of course, our staff would recommend option number 1 from the blue sheet, setting October 14th as a public hearing date. be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions for Mr. Furbeck? I have one. Was this due to fire damage, wasn't it?
I did have some fire damage.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment? Bring this back for action.
Mr. Mayor, I move for approval of resolution number 24-8228, setting October 14th, 2024 as the public hearing date for the dangerous structure located at 122 East Jewell Avenue.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve resolution number 24-8228, setting October 14th, 2024 as the public hearing date for the dangerous structure located at 122 East Jewell Avenue. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Furbeck. Other business, anything a commissioner would like to bring up?
Just one. We got copies of Kansas Government Journal. I guess you could call it a trade magazine, so to speak. Much to my surprise, I just flipped through the pages, and who's in here but the city of Salina? And it's talking about something, that it's not very glamorous, but when you look at one of the things that this city's done in the last couple of years, which is going to reap benefits for years, it's what our city manager touted during his hiring process, which is proactively in inventorying what you have, setting up a deferred maintenance program, and figuring out how you're going to pay for it. And it's a very complimentary article, and the old saying is, it ain't bragging if you can back it up. And I think, this really should be, in some form or fashion, put on our website or distributed, because this is something that Salina is doing a whole lot better than our peer cities. And we've had the luxury of having a few extra dollars that we can plan for in the future because of this. I'd just say to the city manager and staff, job very well done.
And that's published by the League of Municipalities, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I thought so, but I don't want to.
Yeah,
It
for
is.
sure it is. Yeah. So all league members will receive that. Would you like to follow up on that?
Yep, I think you all receive it, but yeah, it's a good idea to post it and get the word out, so we can certainly do that.
Guess I got something to read tonight. Any other comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch base on it. I know it's been talked about before, but some of the areas where, in terms of staffing, that focusing on maybe some adjustments on salaries and wages, in particular the wastewater treatment plant and the Salina Police Department. And I probably sound like a broken record, but I guess I don't want to forget about that issue.
Yeah, as you may recall, our pay plan includes identification of areas that are problematic in terms of hiring, and going out and doing periodic updates and considering adjustments. And those are things staff is actively working on. Admittedly, trying to move that to more of a regimented approach than just anecdotal. We see a raid in another community, but being a little bit more strategic about identifying our challenge positions, and a little bit more strategic about those assessments, and then bringing back recommendations to you. So you may have seen on your agenda planner, we've had a staffing update item that's kind of been moved a couple times. That'll be part of that discussion. I'm not going to say that it solves it, and it doesn't address all those positions necessarily, but that's kind of in keeping with that conversation.
I did have. You had another one?
Oh, well,
No,
go ahead. I had something that kind of segued into that. But
go ahead.
Which kind of brings back the city commission wage or salary conversation we had a while back. So I don't know if, status quo of 1999, so we have, basically a quarter of a century since this topic's been revisited. And I think it definitely has merit And the question that I guess I'll pose would be, would we want to implement some kind of mechanism that incrementally adjusts that so future commissions don't need to have that conversation? Because frankly, it's an awkward conversation. And like everything else we do, it has to be done in public. But you know, I know we'd mentioned, should we adjust for inflation, or should we just go with the model that I believe is City of Hayes went with? And I guess I just want to open that conversation up again.
I thought about it. I have my own opinion. We would have to make a one-time adjustment, pick a number out of the sky, but then let it adjust itself for inflation in the future. I mean, I have my idea what that number would be. I think it would help when I think the city manager calculated what that $300 a month, was it almost 30 years ago, 25 years ago?
And turn that into $2024. And then ironically, after you had that conversation, ran across a more dated number, did that same calculation, and it triangulated into the same general price range. So there might be some truth to kind of that inflation factor. I think the one presumption is possibly syncing it up with COLAs or merits for employees, so that in the event that we are not giving out COLAs or merits for employees, you might not want that same adjustment to kick in for commissioners either.
As Commissioner Linkowitz brought up, it needs to be addressed and do something. You know, 25 years is a long time with no adjustment.
To add that to a future agenda, it just takes a simple majority?
Well, actually, I put it on the agenda planner, that document that we circulate, to match up with the staffing item coming forward. So we were intending to staff it through for you and bring it back to you possibly as early as in the next meeting.
Great.
But we were going to go back and look at, it seemed like you kind of arrived at a consensus in your last discussion, and that was based on taking that original number and then converting it to $2024, then I think having a different rate for the mayor. And so we're going to go back, as staff, go back and confirm those numbers and bring you a draft, and obviously you can amend it as you see fit.
Come February, we'll probably forget that we have a need for shade structure at the City Light stage, but I guess wherever that ball is in the court between the city, Salina, downtown, I imagine those don't just sit on shelves and you go in and buy one, but if we could get that discussion rolling so that next spring we'll have something.
The group that presented to you had a conversation after that about kind of keeping that momentum going, and I'll follow up with them and see what the status is.
Thank you.
That would feel pretty good today.
Yes.
I don't know if that helped today.
Yeah, probably wouldn't help today. Might have to get some of the fire department's fans out there. Anything else? Bring us to Citizens Forum. If you have a comment that's not on the agenda, please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Ben Winholt, Salina. On page 3 of your packet is a addendum sheet that reflects the water customer accounting update. In that is noted that there were a few hiccups in the billing program on the conversion that went live on June 10th. I personally would like to know, and this is personally, would like to know what those hiccups were, because my first bill that I got from this new program for June and July was pretty well normal, what I thought it would be, with the watering system going 4 times in that month, and 3 times a week watering of flowers and tomato plants. Then I got the July-August bill, which is exactly the same watering schedule that I had before, and my water bill doubled. So I'd like to know why it doubled when I, as a plumber of 45 years, know I do not have a leak and did not use that water, any more water than what I used the month before. So I don't know if there's somebody that can tell me that what the hiccups were, if we weren't, if they're catching up from the hiccups to make sure they get all of the water that we used, or just exactly what's going on. Second thing is, last week I brought up the fact of the structure on South Santa Fe in the 600 block that had been over a year since it was going down, and magically 3 days later that building is down. So I don't know if that was coincidence or whether it was due to bringing to somebody's attention that thing had gone so long. So anyway, I would like an answer on the water, because I've talked to a few other people here in town, and same situation. Their water bill doubled in 1 month. So I'd like to know what's going on.
Good afternoon, John Blanchard. Just one quick thing on that. I've heard an awful lot, and I've noticed that the processing fees are out of control. So I don't know what you guys can do about fixing that, but the processing fee for payments is ridiculous. 3 quick things. I'll do this one first. I came here last time asking about commissioners doing business with the city and soliciting city employees. I appreciate the answer I was given by the city manager. But I was troubled to hear that a couple of commissioners confronted an individual not related to this and demanded they know who had been talking about this thing. And I'm not gonna state which one of you, or the two now, that are intimidating people, but I think you need to quit it. When you try to intimidate someone and saying that we all need to back off, we're messing with his livelihood. I think you make the point exactly. It's like, should a commissioner who's in a position of authority be soliciting business from people that are beneath him? And so I think my point is kind of made by that. So I would ask the commissioner and the other one who intimidated the third party that you knock it off. Another thing I had talked about last time, and it's timely with the fire apparatus. I think it's great. I think we have all new apparatus, and we need to really do everything we can do to take care of it. Part of the fire code is that the minimum roadway width in the fire code is 20 feet wide, but there's also a height consideration. I believe it's 13 feet, or at one time it was. It may be less now. But these trucks keep getting taller and they keep getting more expensive. And if we're not trimming the trees in our streets that these have to drive down and maneuver down, then we're really asking for increased maintenance costs on our new vehicles. So I would ask again that you work with Public Works, with Parks and Rec, and with whoever else, and with the fire department, to get some tree pruning equipment, because I think once the first snow or ice storm comes, I think a lot of the trees that have been weakened thus far by this past windstorm we're going to be probably in worse condition than we were after this windstorm. So I'd ask you to please get that taken care of. And then just the last thing, I think I'll just leave it there. I only have 15 seconds left. So please let's get these trees pruned, because a lot of these, and I would prioritize, like we do the sidewalks, I would prioritize that we're trimming these trees in the areas that school kids have to walk to school. Thanks.
I'd like to address Mr. Blanchard's comment. I'm the person that has solicited business with the city. There's nothing wrong with this. When I got elected, I went to city council, went to the city manager. We covered all our bases. There is a purchasing policy with the city. That purchasing policy pertains to me just as much as anyone. But there's nothing unethical about it, nothing illegal about it. But just to put into perspective what we're talking about, I did a quick records request, and all the comparable companies to me, and I won't name anyone in particular or any of them in particular, but they've done $65,000 worth of business in the city since January 1st when I started my business. In comparison, I've done $700. So I'm not getting rich off the city. I don't intend on getting rich off the city. I really haven't been solicited, but I have been solicited by city departments that I have done work with and for in the past 30 years that I've been doing this. So some of them have came to me, and we followed all the rules. There's nothing, I'll stress it again, there's nothing illegal, nothing unethical. And I just want to state, if the citizen feels they need to go to John Blanchard instead of coming to the commission meeting, or they can call, they can email me, they can come to the meeting themselves, and I'd be happy to explain more in depth what I've gone through. It's been a struggle as a commissioner to keep my business and to keep it on the up and up with the city, and I believe I've done that. I've worked 30 years to gain trust with my customers, and the accusations don't help that. So I don't think I said back off. I just would prefer that I not have these baseless accusations coming against me, and I don't think this is the venue to be doing this. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ivey. And I will weigh in that I have full confidence in the ethics of our city manager and you yourself, and I see no issue here. So, any other comments?
You've got one online.
No.
Hello.
Hi.
You there?
Hold on, Mr. Ritz. We got one online.
Oh. Mark Labus, you there? So I got a couple of problems. I agree with Mr. Blanchard and the previous speaker. Number one, the previous commissioner, not you, Mr. Mayor, you expressed all, and I respect your guys' position, but not you, Mr. Mayor, that's currently in the seat. Previous guy. Look, if you say it's not illegal, it may not be illegal, but it is unethical that you participated in forcing people not to express their views. That's unethical. Seriously, it is. So there's a problem right there. And I recognized that months ago when the chicken ban came into existence. I respect your position. I don't respect you as the person in that position, which I can do, period. Because you rely solely upon the chicken ban thing on staff. And that's a problem. And here's the other problem. The current city manager was the person by previous city manager, Jason Gage, who should not be a city manager if you do a politics thing or money thing, and Jason Gage did, which is easy to prove. So our current city manager falls underneath that. So I am sequestering and asking you guys to please start questioning your HR department, the city manager, and to be honest, building services. That would be Lauren Driscoll, because between those three, you control the city. It's not you guys, and I've stated this before. It's nothing against you guys. I'm just trying to. That's all I have to say as far as this goes.
Mr. Ritz.
Yeah, Ken Ritz of Salina. I have a couple of safety concerns. The first, with all the limbs that are down, that's an inherently clumsy operation. Mother Nature doesn't cooperate with our needs. If there could be some better notification when there are trucks working in a neighborhood, so maybe it could just be a little light that's spinning, whatever, stuck around, or some orange cones or something that you'd realize, oh heck, there's better pay attention. They're doing some unusual things here that can pose a hazard. So I better maybe avoid this neighborhood or keep an eye peeled or whatever. But anyway, because I have in one situation stopped where I normally wouldn't, wondering what was going on, and then saw a dump truck and what have you. But anyway, something else that for years and came up with trying to protect bicyclists from motor vehicle damage to them and their bikes and their lives. And that's an obvious imbalance between a car and much less a truck and a bike. But there's also an unbalanced relationship between pedestrians and bicycles, especially with bicyclists who seem to think they can do as they please, which means ignore traffic signals and what have you, and go flying down sidewalks. And I've never seen police intervene, and I'm not aware of how regulations that apply to motor vehicles do or don't apply to bicycles. And I think that needs to be clarified so that bicyclists will know, and also that bicyclists that do go flying down the sidewalk, that can't be legal. It's certainly not sensible. And I've seen any number when, if I'd say, wait, you can't ride, that just give me this, and who died and made you something look. And I do know of two people over the years who, as they left a building in downtown, a bike came flying, and they really couldn't see it because you opened the door and they were hit, and both of them were injured. So whatever it takes, and then to get the word out, I think it would be appreciated by a lot of us. So.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.